and we kind of just jumped in head first. If you are watching this and thinking about doing it first time, I would definitely caution raising. Well, we just finished up our first year of raising Cornish cross meat chickens. And how do you think it went?
I think it went well. I think it was relatively easy and we got really good meat out of it.
Yeah, I don't think we had too many issues. And one of the huge questions that we had going into it, and that a lot of people have out there from my research, is it worth it? So we're gonna go over our costs for the whole process, and then we'll find out whether or not it was actually worth it versus buying at the store or buying from an online retailer. So with that said, the first cost we're gonna go over is the depreciating costs of equipment and materials that needed for raising these birds. So we raised we started with 104 birds. We finished with 94. So with those, man, the bugs out here, brutal. We started with 104 and we finished with 94. So for those 94 chickens, we built 3 chicken tractors. We went a little bit smaller than the typical 10 by 12 chicken tractor. We went 8 by 8, so they couldn't quite hold 75 a piece. I think we put, we started with 32 or 33 in each chicken tractor. And then we finished with obviously like 31 and 32. So those chicken tractors cost us about $580 to build all 3 of them, or $195 a piece. So that'll scale down. If you only want to do 40 birds, it would only cost you about 200 bucks to build a chicken tractor. It's not like we got bulk discounts for building 3 of them. On the chicken tractors, they needed the bell waters and buckets. That totaled about $250 for all of that. You could probably go a cheaper option, but the bell water was the easiest option because we could just leave it on the chicken tractor and not have to pick it up when we're moving every day. When we first got the chicks, we needed a brooder. For our brooder, we went a little bit overkill. We built a mobile shed / brooder. Right now we just finished up. We just loaded it up with all of our chicken stuff, processing stuff and stuff we needed to raise chickens, so it'll sit there for the winter. That cost us about $750. That was one of the bigger expenses, and it's definitely not needed. You could definitely go smaller on something like that. Brooder supplies, about $350. That included heat lamps, heat plates. We bought the heat plates, which are more expensive than the lamps, but there's less risk of fire hazard with the plates. Waters, feeders, that sort of stuff. We bought a plucker, so we bought a big one, and that was also a big cost. That was $750. I think we got it on sale right now. They're about $800, so we saved 50 bucks. It'll do chickens, turkeys, ducks. It'll do the whole deal. It's one of the bigger ones, and then we can use that for years to come. There's also options. We could rent that stuff out to try to recoup some money. The scalder, that was 300 bucks. Again, that'll last us for a long time and can do turkeys and ducks and everything else. The kill cone stand and cones was about 225 bucks. I didn't include much for lumber because I had all that scrap lumber, but it only took a couple 2x4s, so it's not very expensive to build a stand. Just the kill cones were the expensive part. And then there's pans, knives, shears, hoses, miscellaneous processing equipment. That was all about $350 as well. So total for all of that stuff was just over $3,500. I had $3,545. So like I said, that is a huge chunk of money up front, which you don't have to do all that. You can just get a couple heat lamps from Tractor Supply. I think they're 10 bucks for the metal heat lamps. And then you could get a watering trough for a brooder. You could build a small brooder. My brother brooded, he was brooding what, 15, 16 chicks in his basement with a couple 2x6s and some hardware cloth. Like, it doesn't take much, especially if you're not doing that many. So you could definitely cut those costs down. You don't need a plucker, you don't need a scalder. For the scalder, you can just use a large pan and heat up the water. And the plucker, I mean, really, once they're heated up, you don't even need don't even need the plucker.
No,
the feathers pulled out pretty easy. It's more of ease when you're doing 100 birds. But if you're doing 20 birds, you can hand pick those. Even if you want to split it up in 2 days and do 10 birds each day. I mean, it's not that. The feathers come out once it's scalded pretty well. The kill cones you could make out of 5-gallon buckets. So you get at Lowe's or Home Depot for $4 a piece. You just cut the ends off and then twist them in, or you could use they sell some sheet metal tin at Home Depot, like rolls of it. You could bend that up. It would have some sharp edges. You might have to file down or sand down, but there's ways around it where you could cut a lot of those costs out and not have to do it. But we plan to raise chickens for years to come, so it was worth it for us just to buy once and be done with it.
It'll last us a long time.
Yeah. So after the first year, everything's still, for us, we didn't have any issues. Everything still works. Nothing broke. Actually, I broke one of the bell waters.
The tube.
I broke where the hose goes in. I broke that, so I'll have to get that little piece. But I broke that at the end when we were trying to move them. I dropped a bucket. Other than that, the only thing I would do different is I would hard mount the bell waters instead of just tying them on there. I just tied them on there because I wasn't sure how we wanted to work that. But the way we had it and the position of it worked well, so I'll hard mount those for next year. Now for the chickens and the cost of the chickens. We ordered our chicks from Murray McMurray Hatchery. They were $3.14 per bird. We ordered 2 batches. Before we even got here, when we were still in California, we ordered a batch of 75, and they were $3.05 or $3.10. And then we were looking at, when we ordered our feed, we couldn't get a 1,000-pound tote. We could only get a 2,000-pound tote. So with that, we figured out how much we would have, and we ordered an extra 26 birds because we would have had too much extra feed. So those birds were a little bit more expensive. But with that, it ended up being $3.14 per bird, and we ordered 101 total. They sent us a few extras, so that's not included in the cost because that's pretty standard, and we didn't obviously pay for those. So I think we started with 105, and that total was $317.14. For our feed, we ordered corn and soy free feed from New Country Organics. That was a 2,000-pound tote, and that was $1,546.25 shipped. There's a pretty big, I think it was like $200 and something to ship it. You could pick it up, but their mill is probably 4 hours away, and that would have been a long trip with the trailer and the Jeep to tow back 2,000 pounds of feed, and probably not worth it. So with the feed, we also ordered 2 bags of grit, and they were $13.77 a piece. And out of that 2,000 pounds, from what we have left over and what the layers ate, is probably 150 pounds. So that brought the total feed down to, from my math, $1,430.28. Water is extremely cheap where we live. Our water bill for everything we use, not just for the animals, is $25 a month. So I just included 2 months worth of water at $50. So that cost is probably high, because if our whole water bill is $25, the chickens definitely did not take it all.
Yeah.
So that'll depend on where you're at, or if you have rainwater catchment, or if you're on a well or whatever, but we plugged $50 for water. In the brooder, we use 6 bags of bedding for the first 3 weeks, and that's $10 a bag, so that was $60. And once the birds got out and pastured, there was no additional cost for the meat birds. That was all their cost, is upfront costs of the bird itself and then brooder supplies. So that brings us to processing. So for processing, we need shrink bags, and that's our gloves, labels, ice, all of that we figured was about $130. It's not too bad for that stuff. Those are throwaway items, so that doesn't, like I said, that doesn't include any of the scald or plucker or any of that stuff that we can use year after year. So total for everything, not including the depreciated cost at the beginning, for the meat birds was $1,987.42. So just under $2,000 to raise 94 birds to the end. Like I said, we finished with 94 birds. We lost 3 birds that were mostly fully grown. I think 1 at 7 weeks. and 2 in the last week. So we did feed those ones all the way up too, and then we lost them, which is kind of a bummer. Total weight for 93 birds was 480 pounds, 480.67 pounds. So almost 481 pounds, and that averaged out to 5.17 pounds, or 5 pounds 2 3/4 ounces. So that's a pretty average sized bird. It seems like a lot of people that I see raising meat chickens, they all say that they average 5 pounds, so it seems like it worked out. Our biggest was 7.5 pounds.
Yes.
And our smallest was
Just under 3. 2.
I thought it was 2.38.
It might have
It
been.
was low 2s. That was pretty small. And the one we lost the last day was pretty small as well. It probably would have been the low 2s.
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild to see a 5 pound difference for the birds that were fed everything the same, they're same age, the whole deal, and there's a 5 pound difference. So we only had a couple over 7 pounds, maybe 3. We had we had a fair amount of 6s. Obviously, you would have a fair amount of 4, 5s, and 6 since the average was 5, but it seemed like a pretty good mix. It's good for what we need. We eat a lot of leftovers, so if we have a 7 pound bird, we'll eat it. That's not a problem. We eat it for a couple days, and then it's good to have the bigger ones for if we have people over. Cost per pound for a full bird, not chopped up or anything, we were at $4.13. So the chickens at the store, organic chicken at the store, just regular organic chicken that they say is free range, is $7 a pound, $6.99 a pound. An online organic pasture raised poultry, but with corn and soy feed, is anywhere from $9.50 to $11. I think when we were in California, we were ordering from a place that shipped out of Oregon, and they were close to $11 a pound for whole birds, and we would buy in bulk from that.
It's probably on the high end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably on the higher end. There might be, and like I said, that's corn and soy. There might be some cheaper options, but that's just kind of quick. What I did from what we used to buy in California, and then kind of local to us within a few hours now. So from what we did, it's a huge cost savings.
Yes.
It's a huge upfront chunk. I mean, you basically have to put down $2,000 for your groceries for the year, but
you're committing to that in hopes that in the end it's going to pay off, and
yeah,
you don't have that cost every week.
yeah, and I think it definitely paid off, especially for what they're charging for the garbage at the grocery stores nowadays. And you obviously need a place to store it. We didn't include any of that. We had one freezer. We ended up buying another one for the chickens. But if you raise a smaller amount, we have a small chest freezer. I want to say it's 11 cubic feet, which would probably hold 50 birds, no problem. 50 whole birds, yeah. By the time you cut it all up and have more packages and stuff, it's takes up a little bit more space. Now with that said, that doesn't include any of the extra stuff we got. So we saved the hearts, the livers, and kidneys, and we'll give that to the dog. She loves that stuff, so we'll either give it to her as a treat or put it in her food, since we make her own food. So we had 10 pounds of that we put in 1 pound packages. And online, from the place that we used to get from our chickens from California, I just looked, and they sell hearts and livers for, it averages out, because they don't sell them together, they sell them separate, but it averages out to $23.50 a pound. So that's another almost $250 there. So I pieced out 51 birds. We saved 30 birds, and I either pieced out or cut the rest in half, so just over 50. And with the ones that I pieced out, we made stock with all of the carcasses, and then also all the heads, the feet, the neck, all that stuff we cooked down for stock, and we ended up with 31 quarts of stock. Local stuff that we buy, that we have been buying up until this point, was $3.50 a quart. So that's over $100 there. And we also got 16 pints of canned chicken. So we cooked down the bones, and then we pulled any chicken that was left over, Like I said in the processing video, the way I do it leaves a little bit of meat on the bones, but we picked that off and had pulled chicken, which we can use in enchiladas or soups or stews or whatever. A 5-ounce can of that locally, just regular old canned chicken that sell at grocery stores or Costco or whatever, is $8 a can. So that's $128 there. So if you add up everything that we had, all of the stock, the canned chicken, the whole chicken, all of that stuff at store prices was just over $5,000, and it cost us just under $2,000. So it's a huge cost savings, but it's all up front. And there is work. This obviously includes no labor, so if you're trying to do this to make money in a business, you have to factor in your labor. But for our own food, there's no labor cost. So you think it was worth it? Definitely. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely worth it. Even with, I added up the depreciating costs, and that was just over $3,000, I think $3,500. So pretty much the first year we were in the hole $500. But next year, that doesn't include the layers that we use in the brooder as well. Right. So once we start getting eggs, that price will go down, and then anything we go after next year is basically all profit at that point for us, or all savings. So I definitely think it's worth it, and it's probably even more worth it on a smaller scale because you don't need all those upfront costs. You can scald in a pan. I mean, you could probably do it in your house if you wanted to raise 10 birds. I think the other plus to it too is it's rewarding that we grew our own meat the way we want it to be, for sure, rather than just buying it from a store and relying on, you know, factory farms to kind of grow it. With their gimmicks, their free range or whatever they all say. It was very humane, you know, processing them and raising them, and they had the best life possible, but also, you know, it's going to feed our family, and it's the way that we wanted it to be. Yeah. Yeah, there's we did not, I didn't say this earlier, but we did not get our chicks vaccinated when we got them. So they've had no antibiotics, no nothing, no crap that who knows what's going on or what it's doing to you. So, yeah. And it wasn't that, I mean, I think we figured out that we were probably half hour, 40 minutes a day when the birds were on pasture for 3 chicken tractors. So just over 10 minutes per tractor. Yeah. Or 10 minutes per 30 birds or so. Yeah. And that was, it's probably actually less than that. It took probably about 10 minutes to move each one in the morning. And that's because I do not have wheels on ours yet. Mm-hmm. So it did require 2 people. And then towards the end, we checked them at lunchtime, midday, and at the end of the day, because they were drinking more water. We never really had to fill up their feed in the afternoon. We filled up their feed in the morning, and they still had a little bit left over in those 4-foot feeders that we had. So we didn't really have to do much at midday and at the end of the day. I don't know what she's going off about. Yeah, so we filled up their feeders in the morning, and that lasted them for 24 hours. We gave them 24 hours worth of feed. I know some people say they do 12 on, 12 off. At this point, seeing what we did this year, I would do that next year, 12 or 24 hours full feed. I don't see a need. Like I said, we only lost 3 birds fully grown, so it's not like they were getting too big. I think the ones that we did lose definitely had some sort of heart issues. Yes. Just got too big, or their bodies weren't functioning. We had no predator pressure. We have lost multiple layers due to hawks, but they're exposed more. The chicken tractors were fine. I never saw signs of any animals even try to get in the chicken tractors. I mean, that's not to say that it would never happen, but... And depending on the area, yeah. I mean, ours were out in the pasture and kind of right in front of the RV, so who knows next year if we plan to start them way in the back near the woods. We have seen some animals out there, but From talking to the neighbors and stuff, there's quite a few coyotes and stuff, but I think they know that even if they go up, it's going to be hard to get in those chicken tractors. So I don't think we have to worry about that too much, but I guess next year we'll find out. We are on the fence about raising Cornish cross next year. Yes. The meat is delicious. We did have it 2 nights ago and it was great. Yeah. And not necessarily because of anything major that happened, just maybe try a Freedom Ranger or a Red Ranger, kind of more of a heritage bird, to see the difference. Maybe don't lose some of the full-grown ones, or maybe don't get the size discrepancies. It'll take a little bit longer, but yeah, I think it takes about 4 extra weeks, 12 weeks I think, to raise those. So we did talk about we probably won't raise any in the spring. We talked about doing 2 batches next year, but I think this will be good for us for a while, and the focus now is going to be on the house. So we might not raise any in the spring because it's going to be hard to process outside in the summer with no outdoor kitchen or anything yet. So yeah, we may save it again and raise it about the same time in the fall, and we might do maybe 25 and 25. I think 100 birds should get us through the year, even giving some away. Close to it, yeah. Yeah, because we just did our pig, got 150 pounds from that, and then we'll buy a local beef, half a cow or something, to get us through. So 100 chickens should save us or get us through. And then, so next year we might try 25 and 25, do a little bit smaller, see if that makes a difference, and then we could raise them in the spring the following year. So that way we're not processing so many at one time. That was a little bit of a hang up, having to process 100 birds with no experience processing, and really only 3 people, 2 or 3 people doing it at one time. Yeah. Yeah, that was a chunk. It didn't take us out. I think we had 7 hours total of processing time. The cleanup was a pain. I don't think I would do 2 days of processing again. Having to clean up both days, that took the longest. I think I'd rather just process one day and then have to clean the next day. So overall, that's our experience raising meat birds for the first time. No previous experience raising chickens or anything. We ordered them long before we were even at our property, and we kind of just jumped in head first. If you are watching this and thinking about doing it first time, I would definitely caution raising as many as we did. Yes. That was the big thing. For your first time. For your first time. Yeah. Get your feet wet first. But when I do things, I tend to go all in. So that is true. We went with 100 right off the bat. So it's not anything bad happened. It's just a lot of work. It's a lot of work to process for just us to do by ourselves. Yeah. So, you need help, but also it's time consuming with that many birds. On the end. Yes. The brooder stage and when they were on pasture was all easy. So it was just on the end, on the process. And if you take them to be processed, I mean, it's even easier. If you don't want to process yourself and you want to pay somebody, I don't know how much they charge, maybe $1 or $2 a pound to process birds at a local slaughterhouse. But if you're going to do this long term, it's probably best to invest in the equipment. So, but that's our thoughts on it. If you have raised them and have different thoughts, feel free to let us know in the comments how yours went. Or if you saw anything that maybe we should do differently next year, let us know. Yeah. We're all ears. So overall, I think it went well, and we're looking forward to 2024. Doing it again, but with a little less. So thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you on the next video.